The pest control industry generates $22 billion per year in the United States. That money goes to chemicals that have been linked to Parkinson's disease, childhood neurological disorders, and cancer in more than 40 peer-reviewed studies. Before those chemicals existed, every native community across North America kept their homes insect-free using plants that cost $1 and last all summer. The Environmental Protection Agency registered synthetic versions of these exact plant compounds in 1972. The same year, sage use in American homes completely stopped. Walk down the pest control aisle of any local hardware store. The crowded shelves of aerosol cans and concentrated sprays represent an industry that has grown to $22 billion a year, extracting more than $300 annually from the average American household. This commercial empire was built systematically over the course of the 20th century, transforming simple household safety into a high-margin, recurring dependency. The foundation of this transition began during World War II. In 1944, the United States Army synthesized N,N-diethyl metatoluamide, now known as DEET, to protect soldiers in tropical climates. When the government cleared the chemical for commercial use in 1957, it was marketed as a modern household necessity, even as initial research began linking the compound to neurological effects in children. To expand their retail reach, chemical companies turned to historical indigenous practices. Native nations had used natural compounds from chrysanthemums for centuries to clear living spaces of pests. Modern laboratories isolated these natural defenses, synthesized them, and patented the results as permethrins. By converting free organic plants into proprietary chemical formulations, the market successfully severed the public connection to traditional botanical knowledge. Families were funneled into a cycle of buying synthetic copies of solutions that used to grow right outside their doors, completely unaware that safer, cheaper alternatives had already been perfected. The leaves of white sage, or Salvia apiana, carry a dense concentration of thujoni and camphor. These natural monoterpenes are highly effective insect irritants, disrupting the olfactory pathways of invading pests without introducing synthetic toxins into a living space. Using this plant as a household shield requires no complex equipment or chemical licensing. Igniting a single dried bundle for just 10 minutes releases a steady plume of volatile compounds, establishing a protective barrier that deters mosquitoes, flies, and moths for 6 to 8 hours. For ongoing protection, hanging these dried bundles directly beside windows and doorways acts as a persistent, season-long deterrent, physically blocking the entry points where crawling and flying insects attempt to cross into the home. Protecting an entire house for an entire summer requires only 3 to 4 of these botanical bundles. At standard retail prices, this seasonal defense costs about $4 total, less than a single can of synthetic aerosol spray, and a mere fraction of the hundreds of dollars drained by recurring commercial pest contracts. The physical mechanism is straightforward, affordable, and readily accessible to anyone. Yet, as chemical manufacturers consolidated their hold on the modern retail market, this highly effective botanical option was systematically pushed to the margins of American domestic life, leaving families dependent on patented sprays. The disappearance of natural sage from commercial shelves comes down to a simple legal reality: ownership. Under United States patent law, natural raw plants cannot be monopolized. Because chemical manufacturers could not secure exclusive rights to wild sage, they had no financial incentive to fund the costly EPA registration process. Instead, the industry focused on synthetic versions. On July 31, 1972, the EPA formally registered synthetic thujone, the active pest-repelling compound found naturally in sage, under CAS number 1-125-12-8. The natural leaf, however, remained unregistered. A 1998 Freedom of Information Act request pulled back the curtain on this division. The resulting files serve as an archival marker for this investigation, revealing internal evaluations where sage was found to be highly effective. Policy analysts and indigenous ethnobotanists point to these records as proof of a system that marginalized traditional botanical knowledge to favor corporate interests. By leaving the natural plant unregistered, the regulatory framework blocked a safe, inexpensive repellent from the retail market, keeping families dependent on expensive, patented chemical sprays. Ojibwe knowledge holders point to a long-standing domestic practice that protected winter clothing and blankets without chemical intervention. Placing fresh cedar chips directly into storage closets created a natural deterrent that kept moths and beetles away from valuable textiles. European settlers adapted this Ojibwe technique, substituting native cedar with lavender sachets to safeguard their own wardrobes in enclosed spaces. In independent textile preservation tests, both traditional methods successfully protected delicate fabrics from larval damage, proving their practical worth. Yet the commercial market chose a highly profitable alternative. Chemical manufacturers filled retail shelves with synthetic mothballs made of naphthalene and paradichlorobenzene. Today, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies both of these synthetic compounds as Group 2B, possible human carcinogens. While families purchased these toxic household blocks, a safe, organic defense was already working silently in Ojibwe homes. Cherokee horticultural traditions applied this protective logic directly to the kitchen. Cherokee kitchen gardens utilize rosemary and mint, positioned specifically at entry points. The Cherokee cultivated these plants at kitchen doorways for pest defense rather than culinary use. The volatile oils in these plants contain natural compounds like camphor and menthol, which disrupt the sensory receptors of ants, flies, and cockroaches before they can cross the threshold. Hanging these fresh herbs over doors and windows kept active food spaces entirely clear. Modern research confirmed this traditional placement strategy. A 2021 University of Kentucky entomology study analyzed these natural defenses, finding that mint oil matched the efficacy of commercial chemical ant baits. A living plant grown right at the doorstep provides the same defensive barrier as synthetic retail poisons, keeping kitchens free of pests and synthetic chemical residue. To secure an entire home, these traditional defenses work best not as isolated remedies, but as a coordinated, threshold-by-threshold system. It begins at the primary entry points. Placing dried white sage bundles directly over outer doorways establishes an initial barrier against flying insects. For enclosed storage, replacing toxic mothballs with natural cedar chips in closets, renewed each spring, safeguards delicate fabrics from larval damage. In the kitchen, where active food preparation requires strict chemical-free safety, growing rosemary and mint along windowsills and side entries keeps crawling pests from crossing the threshold. Moving into the bedroom, placing lavender sachets near the bed provides quiet, non-toxic deterrence throughout the night. Outside, the defensive perimeter is completed in the garden through companion planting using marigolds, nasturtiums, and basil to repel aphids and beetles before they ever reach the physical walls. This entire integrated household defense requires no expensive contracts, costing between $8 and $12 annually. When adopting this method, simple safety protocols apply. Ensure proper ventilation when burning sage, account for individual smoke sensitivities, and prioritize ethically and sustainably sourced plants to respect the indigenous lineages that perfected these systems. The complete blueprint for this approach, detailing a full 12-plant household system, is available in the resources below. In our next episode, we will examine another highly efficient agricultural legacy, the Three Sisters companion planting method, and how it naturally preserves soil health while maximizing food production. They priced out nature to sell you synthetic alternatives, but the power to protect your home is already yours. Access our full 12-plant guide below. Next, we will reveal the secrets of the Three Sisters garden. Subscribe to reclaim what was hidden.